Hey everyone, it's Stephanie, and you are tuned in to the review of Love at First Flight, Season 1, Episode 2. So, we are off and running with this season. They are starting to go to different cities. So now we're finding that what I assumed would be they're just kind of traveling randomly. They have all the couples going to the same places. The couples don't know each other, but they're all going to the same place. So this week they go to Nashville. Everyone gets to go to Nashville. Everyone's super excited about that. And you get to watch them have different activities in Nashville and get to know each other. So right now it's about day 2 or day 3. So let's kick it off with Stephanie and Michael. Stephanie and Michael are having a good time getting to know each other. We get to see her funny side. She's rapping in the car and he likes that she's so relaxed and they're having fun together. Their task in Nashville is making sausage. So they went to a slaughterhouse and they, did most things. I mean, everything has already been done as far as having it ready for them, but they did a lot of butchery and they put the sausage together. And I really wasn't, impressed with the task. I mean, you really have to be a good sport to do this experiment because it encompasses a lot of things that you naturally don't want to do or wouldn't necessarily want to do when you first meet someone. But they had a good attitude about it. We start to see Stephanie and Michael kind of like bump heads a little bit because he was making jokes that, lent itself to like a sexual nature. And the first one was funny. I mean, I'll be honest, I did chuckle, but it got on her nerves. So she wasn't finding it funny when he said it like 2 or 3 more times. And the reality is, for most women, if we're not into you like that, or we haven't gotten there yet, that stuff is kind of off-putting. So I was starting to like say in my mind, oh gosh, I hope he kind of stops and just wraps it up, because clearly she's not finding it funny. But they move quickly beyond that. She's really wanting to see, she says in the confessional that she wants to see him really be marriage Michael. She really wants to see him be able to do that. And I just want her to just relax a little bit. I mean, realistically, this is day 3. I know we're on a time crunch, but this is day 3. You don't really know what lies on the other side of him. There are many aspects to him that haven't been shown because they haven't had time to be shown. And I would just tell him to like just relax a little bit, give her some space because she is who she is. You see them kind of accomplish the task. They have a good time. They get their reward, which is the nicer hotel. They talk a little bit about their process, what they're doing. So they're both entrepreneurs. She talked about how she got there and how he got there. She says something that it is a little like, I think, off-putting to him, and you can see that his wheels are spinning, where she says she doesn't want her husband to compete with her in any type of way, career-wise, or I'd assume everywhere, but she's speaking about career, and that it would be great to find a stay-at-home dad. So Michael kind of makes a face because he's an entrepreneur as well. And you can see that he's very much a man's man. And so the idea of being a stay-at-home dad for him doesn't work. But he doesn't really want to say anything yet because he's feeling her out. So he even says in his confessional that he kind of can recognize that she's more of a bossier lady. But he is also someone who is very direct and very assertive, appropriately so. So he's going to kind of see how that plays out. I think that as long as they communicate effectively, as long as they set appropriate boundaries, it can work out for the two of them. There's nothing that's really alarming. Last week's episode, I kind of talked about just her effective communication. That might be a problem. But right now, we're seeing them still enjoy each other. It opens up with them kind of playing around in the car and just having a good time, even though there are little bumps and bruises, which is natural when you first meet someone. You don't know everything about them. I mean, even your spouse can annoy you sometimes. So it's nothing that's like a huge red flag right now. So that is Stephanie and Michael. Let's see, Alma and Michael. So they are also in Nashville. Their task is to write a song. So there's 2 parts of their task. They go to a recording studio where they have to literally write a song about their whole union, which is really difficult. At least it would be difficult for me, starting out, having only known each other 2 days at this point, 2.5 days. But they do a really great job at it. they not only have to write the song, but they record the song. And both of them are nervous because, I can't sing and whatever the case may be. But what I'm finding is that Alma kind of jumps out there. She just does it. She may not be really comfortable with it, but she does it and it's okay. Where Michael tends to be a little more timid. He becomes a little more anxious. He's wondering, is his voice gonna shake? Is he gonna look stupid? He's like kind of very concerned about what he'll look like and how he presents. And he even says, he's worried about that, but Alma is actually calming him. Like her being there and her going through it and them doing it together calms him. So you see how this opposite actually works for the better of the union, because they get through it really beautifully. And then part 2 of their project is to go out and now basically sing for, I think it was like $50 they had to make. So they had to basically sing the song that they just recorded to strangers outside. And I'll have to say that would be jarring for me. That's not something that I would do. However, there's a part of that whole process that's kind of like, listen, we're gonna do this together and it really doesn't matter. So you see kind of Alma jump out. I mean, you would think she's a natural at this. She jumps out, she talks to people, she gets everybody to come, they sing. She pretty much, I will say, carries Michael through this entire process. He's extremely anxious, and the more anxious he gets, the more he doubles down about, I'm not doing it, to the point where he said, she says, do you even care? And he says, no, I don't care. Now you can see that at that moment, that was his breaking point for that specific thing, because she was really doing her best at the beginning and she wanted him to kind of chime in. She said, I know you're uncomfortable and I just, go talk to that one person over there. Like, I really want you to help me. And she kind of made it like, now do this for me. I've been doing this for us. Now do this for me. And unfortunately, he was not able to follow through with that. He kind of just stopped dead in his tracks, and you can see that he was very uncomfortable. Luckily for them, they were able to get, the amount of money that they needed. So they have the hotel for the night. And as they get in, they start talking about things. And it pretty much goes from 0 to 100. Michael asks, what could I have done differently? And she essentially is saying kind of like, show up, like you pretty much decided not to do anything. And then she's triggered, because she says in her confessional that her dad walked out on her mom, and her dad essentially made it seem like he was going to be this great guy and kind of fooled everyone and fooled her mom and just disappeared. And so him not showing up for her reminded her of that. And so he basically said, don't kind of project what you're afraid of or your past on me. And that triggered her. And it was just kind of like an ugly cycle, because the reality is her past does trigger her, as it does with most of us. But she didn't want to hear it. She kind of was frustrated, saying, what if this is just something that I don't want for the present? And it all ties together. And so she storms out, and I mean, she has a temper on her. She gets up and she slams the door, and it doesn't end well. Luckily, though, the next morning they were able to kind of talk about it. They embraced when they saw each other, no bad feelings, and really talk about where that stuff is coming from and how they can move forward, which is reflective of real life. It's reflective of a real relationship. Things aren't always that great. In heated moments, things do get ugly sometimes. There definitely needs to be a cap on how ugly they get. You really should learn how to fight fair and argue in an efficient way. But it may not be that great. You may need a little bit of a timeout, and then you come back and you clean it up and you move on. So they were able to do that. So I'm interested to see how they continue to build. I don't necessarily get a huge physical romantic chemistry from them, but I get that both of them are genuinely trying. So that's Alma and Michael. The next couple, Jenna and Cale. I don't know what to say about them. Jenna and Cale, it's funny because at the beginning they kind of give you a little bird's eye view of each couple in the car, and most of them are kind of having fun or singing a song or talking about how excited they are, and then it's like birds chirping, like crickets, chirping in Cale and Jenna's car. They're on their way to Nashville, and she's saying that they're ready to start fresh and they want to do something new together, and he's still eager, but he is also he's still kind of frustrated with who he has learned her to be in the last day or two. He says, you know, the way that she comes off is still kind of frustrating, but he's willing to give it the old college try. So they go to Nashville. I will be honest, their project sucked. You know, Jenna was she was a pill to deal with, you know, for lack of a better word. She did not want to do it. It was like going to a cow farm or something. I don't even know what to call it, but they had to like shovel manure into the water. And part 2 of that was also milking the cows, and they had to reach a certain amount collectively, and they didn't, you know, and it was really Jenna's fault. She just was super squeamish and she couldn't get it. He did his best. He got the majority of it actually. But at one point when they were shoveling manure, she couldn't get through it and she stopped. And, you know, here's how I'm going to dissect that. So Cale, I don't think was having the best time in the world, but I think that he wanted to achieve the goal of making sure that they stayed somewhere great. And so he kind of, you know, shoveled through the shit, pun intended, to get through this thing. And she just stopped. I'm not judging her too hard because I wouldn't have started. But it's just very reflective of who they are and how they approach things. Because the reality is, if we bring this back to the entire relationship concept, what are you going to do when something comes up in your relationship that you don't like? Do you just shut down? Do you say you're not going to deal with it? Are you avoidant and let things explode? Are you passive aggressive? Or do you kind of just get through it? And so, yes, most of the time in a good relationship, you'll find a healthy balance of someone knowing to be up when the other is down, and then the natural like seesaw, like when that person is down, that other person knows, okay, let me step my game up to kind of offset this. Cale, just from this activity, understands this concept whether he realizes it or not. Jenna does not. She doesn't care. So she lacks some recognition there. She does circle back towards the end of that, and she gives it one push and she gets back in the game. But there was a lot of downtime where she didn't want to do anything and she really didn't care. So we watch them kind of struggle through that, and he's frustrated because here he is not enjoying it at all, but he's still kind of doing it. So he's recognizing, hey, I don't really have a partner who's willing to do something that they don't want to do. So there's that. They don't get into the luxurious hotel. They actually have to sleep in a tiny house, which I thought was hilarious, because tiny houses, I think the only downside of a tiny house is that it's tiny. But other than that, they're actually made very well. They're actually beautiful. So of course she pretty much kicks and screams when she sees that. She's like not having it. She walks around and nothing is gonna work. But we see, you know, the next morning that she talks about that was exactly what they needed, because the close quarters forced them to really just talk about each other. So they flash back to the night before where they're eating pizza and they're just talking and having a good time, and it was just like, wow, they actually can get along, and they were both very relaxed and having fun and laughing. So it was great to see that. It looks like they are getting along, and even though they're vastly different, it was good to see that, okay, maybe that's like the silver lining, that there is some aspect of their personalities that can work together. And who knows, you know, when you throw in love and emotion, you make room for a lot of things you wouldn't make room for. So I'm not counting them out at all. I'm just gonna go episode by episode. I'm gonna try not to future trip too much, but based on what I saw, they turned it around well. She's still off-putting. It's just who she is. I would love to like pull her to the side and be like, why? Let's get into your history as to why you present this way, because our characteristics, both good and bad, serve us, especially the bad. So if you're defensive, or if you show up sarcastically, or if you have walls up, those serve to protect you. So in our minds, okay, this has kept me safe. How can I keep them going? But in the wrong situation, they get in the way and they don't serve you. So that would be something I really want to ask her about, why she presents the way she does, and ways that she can make just minute changes so that it isn't affecting her in a damaging way, because right now it is, and I'm sure it has been. So that is Cale and Jenna. The last couple is Stephanie and Ryan. I think they got the sweetest deal out of out of this week. Their task was to go line dancing, and they went shopping for the line dancing, which was fun, and then they just had to do like one line dance, and that was it. And they got to stay in the hotel. I mean, they literally like got the award for this episode for like the easiest way to get the prize. They had a really good time. The other couples really got like not so great things. I mean, it definitely was character development for sure, but they had a very good time. And then they also just got to spend time together in the hotel. She wrote him a cute little note. So basically she's crushing on him all immediately. You know, the moment I saw her write the note and like slip it under his door, it just took me back to grade school. Like, do you like me? Yes or no? Check the box. It was super cute, and he thought it was super cute as well. Like I said, you know, for the episode last week, they definitely have a good connection. They're physically attracted to each other. You can totally see it. They were making out on the dance floor. And the next morning they wake up and they're ordering room service, and, you know, she says, you know, she really likes him, and she got closer to him last night physically. So we all know what that means. I mean, to the extent of what that means, I don't know, but I do know that they're more than just friends at this point. So you can see that they're having a good time, and they're gelling, they're falling into whatever it is that they're building. I'm looking forward to see them kind of handle something that is not so surface. They've talked about things that aren't necessarily that easy. He talked about his health condition. She talked about, you know, her bad relationships, but they talked about it and then they moved on. So looking at them face some challenges together is going to be important, because, you know, even though they are getting along, you could see that they have good chemistry. A true relationship is comprised of many things, you know, getting along, good chemistry, physical connection, but also, you know, conflict, how to get over conflict effectively, family issues, you know, relationship issues within the relationship, and still moving forward and enjoying each other. So I want to see how they'll continue to enjoy each other, hopefully, in the future, with kind of things arising and them kind of going as they go. So that's pretty much it. This season is definitely starting to get my attention. I'm definitely starting to see what's going on. I'm seeing that they're gonna be in cities together. I'm seeing that they're not going to have any type of support from any type of experts. So I'm going to continue to kind of give you bits and pieces of what I think they're going to need, or what somebody would look at for them. So that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Please subscribe and comment, and I'll see you next week.